What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. In this one, I'm going over one of the more popular and best omnibuses out there, the one of the Night Lords. Here we have the Night Lords 10th Company, the Covenant of Blood, being taken over by the Genesis chapter of the Ultramarine successors. So without further ado, guys, let's get into this awesome lore. "We can't run," Mercutian muttered. The bleeding eyes were holding the southern walkways. "The Imperials are closing on us from behind, too." Mercutian cursed and fell back another few steps. "Oh hell, this one looks dangerous." He could make out the ornate chains and tabards draped across his enemy's armor, and the emblems inscribed, worn with righteous pride. One warrior stood out above all, walking closer with inevitable purpose. "Oh," Talos said. What followed were several multi-syllabic curse words in Nostraman, with no literal Gothic translation. They were not fit for the polite society, or even the less decadent tiers of impolite society. Cyrion fired with his bolter at his cheek, laughing as he replied, "At least it looks like we're going to be killed by a hero." He moved to stand over Cyrion, pressing a boot onto the Night Lord's chestplate. Was it worth it? To fall from the Emperor's grace? Do all of your viperious achievements validate your cancerous existence, now that your life comes to an end? "Behind you," Cyrion was still laughing. Talon was no fool. Even an initiate wouldn't be deceived by such crude trickery. That fact, coupled with the noise of chatter from the boarding squads, was why he was taken completely by surprise when Zoro came at him from behind. Cyrion was the only one of the First Claw to witness the duel that followed. What he saw stayed with him until the night he died. They didn't engage at once. Zoro and Talon stared at each other for several moments, each taking in the trophies and honor markings displayed across their rival's suit of armor. "I am Talon of the Genesis, Warden of the West Protectorate. I am the end of heretics, the bane of traitors, and the loyal son of Lord Gilliman." "Oh," Zoro chuckled through his vox ponder, "you must be very proud." Talon advanced, shield high and hammer at the ready. "Make peace with your black-hearted gods, heretic. Tonight you will know the—" Zoro gave a distinctly annoyed snort. "I'd forgotten how much you heroes like the sound of your own voices." As Talon drew near, the Night Lord gripped his two-handed chain blade in a single gauntlet. In his other hand, Zoro caught the handle of Urza's damaged chain axe as he kicked it up from the deck. "Let's get this done," Zoro said, still smiling. "I look forward to letting your slaves use your helm as a shit bucket." Zoro caught another hammer blow in the cross blades. His own sword, the unimaginatively named Executioner, was already reduced to ruin. With so few teeth, it had almost no grip. No chain weapon could stand up to the Protectorate duel with a thunder hammer. Zoro cast it aside with a curse. 3 crashing strikes against Talon's shield drove the warrior back as far as Zoro needed. He repeated his kicking move, flipping Talos' stolen Blood Angel power sword off of the deck and catching it in his spare hand. Clenching the grip was enough to activate it. The sword hissed and spat with lethal lightning dancing along its golden length, crackling as the energy discharged into the air. Everything changed the moment he held the blade, for he had a weapon that could reliably parry the devastating maul. Zoro used both weapons to smash into the hammer's haft, knocking its descent aside. Conflicting power fields met with angry snarling sparks. When Talon's shield came high, readying for a crushing bash, Zoro's axe hacked into the top rim. The Night Lord pulled the axe, tearing the shield from the Space Marine's grip. They backed away once more. Zoro kept both weapons live, one boot on the half Aquila of the fallen boarding shield. Talon gripped his hammer in both hands. "You have done well, traitor, but this ends now." "I think I'm winning," the Night Lord grinned. "What do you think?" The Night Lord staggered back himself, dropping the sword so his one good hand could claw at his collar locks. He had to disengage his helm seals. He had to get the helmet off so he could see, so he could breathe. He wasn't going to win this if it stayed a fair fight, and his options to cheat were getting thinner with each drop of blood that rang from his body. The bastard's armor was too thick, and one more hammerfall would keep him down long enough for Talon to finish the job. The Genesis Space Marine drew breath for another chastisement. Zoro chose that moment to headbutt him. A life of bloodshed and battle meant Zoro was no stranger to pain, but pounding his bare forehead against the riveted dense helm of an Adeptus Astartes was one of the most agonizing moments of his existence. Talamon's head snapped back, but Zoro wouldn't let him go. He leaned closer, around their warpishly buzzing weapons, and powered his head against the Space Marine's faceplate a second time. Then a third. The impacts made the corridor echo like a forge, and his nose gave way with a sickening snap on the fourth. On the fifth, something cracked in the front of his skull. 2 more followed it. He was breaking his own face apart. Feeling was both distantly indescribable and painful beyond words. Blood sheeted into his eyes. He could no longer see, but he could feel Talamon's muscles loosening, and he could hear the gargling of a throat injury. He spat. A stringy goblet of blood-diluted acidic saliva splashed against the left eye lens, eating its hissing way into the flesh beneath. An 8th headbutt was enough to send both of them reeling. Talon stumbling back against the wall, Zoro losing his balance and collapsing to his knees for several heartbeats. Talos' sword fell from his grip. Blinded, he felt along the floor for the fallen weapon. He sensed the shadow rising above him and heard the tense growl of a wounded power-armored warrior. He knew the Genesis Space Marine was raising the hammer high. Its distinctive thrum was unmistakable. Zoro's fingers closed around the hilt of Talos' energized sword. With a scream of effort, he rammed it upwards. It bit deep, and Zoro didn't hesitate. He started carving as soon as it sank in. His clumsy, brutal hacksawing tore through the armor, flesh and bone with equal relish. Gore rained onto him, populated wormishly by the looping ropes of Talamon's intestines. He felt them splash over his shoulders and encircle his neck like oil-slick snakes. At any other time, he'd have been amused at the foul display, but Zoro yanked his sword free, hauling himself to his feet in a surge of renewed vitality. His next chop cleaved the champion's hammer hand at the wrist, letting the weapon fall at last. "I am taking your helm," Zoro panted, "as a trophy. I think I earned it." Talon swayed on his feet, too strong and too stubborn to collapse. For the Emp." Zoro took a step back and spun with all the strength he could muster, and powered the golden blade through the enemy's neck. It went through without slowing, as though it had nothing to chop but clean air. The head fell one way, the body another. "To the abyss with your Emperor," Zoro sighed. And here we have an epic battle that is just one of many within the Night Lord's omnibus. You have so many colorful characters that really goes to show you just how unique and how rich and deep their personalities are. Because when you look at Space Marines, most of the time they're kind of stoic and they barely even speak, if that. So you never really get to see the man behind the power armor, if you could even consider them men. But here we see that these characters are giving flavor, they're giving personality, and this is exactly what we need to see on the big screen. Whether it's through TV show or a movie, we need to see that Space Marines aren't these stoic, almost robotic warriors, that they actually do have personality. And besides the Primarch, this is probably one of the best instances of how you can showcase that in a novel, which again guys, I greatly recommend you guys check this out. But that's all I got for today. So as always, thank you for listening, watching, and subscribing. Don't forget to comment what other topics you want us to cover. And as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
to put my freedom first. In